Santo Domingo, the Dominican Republic, but I also like to call myself that I am a Dominican York, because I am half from Dominican Republic, because my life was there, and then I am also living in New York. So I feel that I need those two, and those two inform so much my work, because I am very much about pride of place. I never felt that I went to any place and I felt like I didn't belong, or that I was isolated. I never had that issue. As a matter of fact, I think I had that issue more in my own country, because because that idea of like being like this idea of like, oh, this is what we are and there is no more possibilities, that made me feel like I am trapped. The idea of being double in the case that I am now, or even like have different and multiple nationalities, is something that goes with me, because it's something that, like I said before, informs completely my Caribbean experience, where I come from, the fact that the Caribbean is a place of encounters, and the beginning of what I call the American experience. I come from a family that activities of like going to exhibitions, to go to theater, to read, conversations that were important, history, that was something important in my house. And in San Cristobal, we have this church by with the murals of Bela Zanetti, who was this Spaniard artist and came because of the civil war in Spain, and did a lot of the big murals. But then, in that same generation, there were people like Jaime Corso, Dominican. And then there was this great collection of art. So I remember, and my sister, that we used to go and we loved to see these paintings on the walls. And these paintings were different than the one we saw at the church. There was something about them. They have all these people that were darker, because even though he has that epic, muralist, very Eurocentric in many ways, education, you could see the traces of the Caribbean, in his work. And then I realized, without knowing what, that something was there that was different, and it was important. So somehow I kept that in a memory flash someplace. Then when I go to the school, I realized that nobody can do certain things, because if you did something, I will do your cover for your decoration of your book, because I did these beautiful hearts, So anyway, but that's when I realized, oh, nobody can do this. It's like, oh, this is different, but definitely it was like, but it always was part of me. Everything that I do and how I do it is very cohesive with the way that I really, it's my American experience, my Caribbean experience. It's the fact that I am the consequence of something that was very bloody, but also change the world completely, transform everything, hack everything, and make it new. In my paintings, even the way that I draw and I apply the paint on the canvas, I has to allude to movement, because the idea is that it's in constant evolution, it's in constant transit, and it's about the idea that it's no absolute truth. So without even, making it like, oh, it has to be red or has to be a pink or orange, it has to have that spirit. That spirit is more important than the outcome aesthetically. Even though I also, take care of that. All my work is about this open drawing, openness, and the always opportunity of leaving a space to transformation. I am not immune to beauty, and this is something that we have a bombardment of. The richness, the over the top opulence of Christianity that talks about poverty and taking care of people, and then all of a sudden everything is gold, and really represents oppression. But then at the same time, I am from that. I am a consequence of that. I have to really make sure I find a voice that is truthful. So what do I have constantly, and I cannot say that it doesn't affect me, is the bombardment of iconography of the Catholicism. Which what I do is that I make it mine. I make it mine, by making sure I colonize the colonizer, by transforming these symbols to make it in symbols where all of a sudden my little baby Jesus is brown, where the baby Jesus actually looks like the one that is supposed to be, peregrinating, in pilgrim in the desert all over, trying to unite people. That is the one that I'm talking about. So the one, for example, like the Virgin Mary, for example, now becomes some kind of Yemaya, because I cannot erase my Africanness. First of all, I come from an island and then I moved to another island, which is Manhattan. This idea of like always, having, being in places that are surrounded by water and that are very important historically for the history of our America. In the case of Santo Domingo, it was the first European city in this side of the Atlantic. And then I moved to Manhattan, and it's really the beginning of the empire of the North Americans. I mean, almost everything came from here, in that spirit of like really conquering other lands. And for me, that was super important, And then the fact that every time, we tackle the idea where we come from. And if we really pay attention to it, we all connected. So the idea of this water that is always moving, I realized that it really carries our DNA. And the concept that I saw, it was like my fascination when you see, when you are in the beach, in any of our beautiful beaches in Las Americas, like you can see the back and forth of the waves. And thinking about like sometimes you leave something and then it tastes it, and then all this other comes back. This idea they come back, and then I am thinking in the way that I play with the storytelling, like how I can play with the narrative, and by leaving and taking, and by the way compose the events, how can I change the narrative? So that kind of inspired me right away. And then I said, oh my God, this is exactly it. This is an obstacle, because we had to find something that floats to go to one place to another, but it's also a via of communication. So I felt that constant movement, that idea of like all these stories live there that are ours, connects us and separates us at once. So that was the idea of the liquid highway. This highway, this road that connects us all. That's how. The way that I take all that European paintings, it has to be loud, because the song of the Caribbean and the America is loud. When it's sunny, there is not question that it's sunny. It is sunny. It's loud. It's big. Even when it's small, it's big. If you take a look at the way that I do my water is never sad. My water is always full of golden drops. It has colors of all kind. It's the way that we confront all that tragedy or that genocide. How we do it is by confronting it in such a way that takes over. The whole, marks I make that look like writing, but they are not. They allude to this idea of the constant movement of the storytelling. Without realizing, you can see that my layer, the colors of my skin come afloat. And that's why I went to Granada, because I felt very connected to the history of the area, where there were such an important civilization of the Arabs and the Moors and the Jewish and the Visigoth. Everybody together over there. I remember the first time I heard flamenco, I cried, because it touched me deeply. And I understood later on why. It's because exactly, conveys exactly what I'm talking about. Is this how something can, live with each other with no problem, in certain kind of strange harmony, but it's the consequence of it. It's like everything together. So when I went to Granada, I went because I wanted to spend a time to really decoding all those symbols that I felt were very connected to me. But then of course what happened is that it becomes newer, because my travel this time was from America to the other side of the Atlantic. When we talk about, like, I didn't feel that I belong to one place, that I am very much double. like I cannot make peace with that idea. I guess it's the idea of that. That is like my idea of geography is more emotional than anything. So it's I have my own concept of territory. So I guess that's also part of this need I have. That the lines are almost impossible to read because it's not about reading, but alludes to reading, alludes to narrative, but alludes to this flowing and moving narrative, that unites, and give me the possibilities of like say, oh, I am from Africa, I am also, from the south of Spain, I am a little bit Basque, so it gives me that opportunity because it has all those connections, because it's always moving beautifully. Beauty is the most effective resistance.